today I'm just going to be specifically talking to the player that almost always feel rushed or tends to make a lot of throwing errors because of the rushing. Hi there, Doug Bernier from Pro Baseball Insider. Today I want to share with you one of my biggest tips for being a better infielder. And when it comes to fielding a ground ball, I get a lot of questions like this. My biggest problem with infield is that I tend to rush through everything. I hurry my grounders, rush my throws. It leads to lots of errors, which leads to me pressing too much, trying to force everything more, which leads to, you guessed it, more errors. Now, I understand what you're going through. I went through this in high school. This was a big issue that I had to overcome, and I actually learned it through trial and error. No one really taught me how to work through the rushing aspect, but this is a huge issue I see all around. Kids feel pressured to get the throw off as fast as possible, and this causes a lot of problems and errors. So when players rush, they're thinking of the throw before they catch the ball. Now remember, if you take one thing from this video, remember you always need to catch the ball before you make the throw. And I know that sounds simple, but when we have a fast runner out there, or maybe the ball's not hit very hard and we're trying to unload it quick, sometimes we can think about that throw or try to set up that throw too much before we actually secure the ball. You'll see mistakes like footwork, shuffle steps, and the direction towards first base not completed. So what that means is if we're trying to be too quick and we field the ball, our arm wants to get rid of the ball, but maybe our stride isn't the proper length. Maybe it's too short and our upper half, lower half timing is off, and now all of a sudden we start winging the ball and we're not as accurate as we could be. And that all stems from the main problem of rushing. Players end up throwing before they're ready, so they're throwing oftentimes from a non-ideal, non-athletic position. So think about this. When you practice, you field the ball in a certain way, right? You create that tempo that's ideal to you. You feel comfortable. You're able to field the ball. You're able to make accurate throws across the infield. But then when the player is rushing in the game, maybe there's a fast runner, all that preparation gets thrown out the window and you're letting an external factor dictate your tempo. When that happens, now all of a sudden we're throwing all that work, all that practice, all that preparation out the window, and we're letting him dictate it. So now we're just winging the ball and we're not staying with what we do. We're not taking that practice that we work so hard at and taking it into the game. Now, it is important that we understand our tendencies and the mistakes that we tend to make when we rush. But honestly, that would be an extremely long video. But what I want to tell you about today is the biggest reason why you feel rushed and how to go about creating more time for yourself so you can complete the play with confidence instead of feeling frantic. So we can eliminate so many mistakes if we can create a rhythm that we can trust, and when we do that, we eliminate rushing. Now, when I say eliminate rushing, I'm not saying that we can't be quick, we can't be fast. No, quick and fast are different from rushing. There's that line right there, and we need to be quick in the infield, right? That ball gets on us, we need to unload the ball quickly. But when we cross over to that line to rushing, that's when we start to get rid of the ball before we're ready, or we're letting an external factor dictate how quick we need to be. Now, the area I start with my young infielders is letting them know the importance of the first step. This was hammered home to me by former Major League infielder, former Major League infield coach with the Detroit Tigers, Rafael Belliard. He was working with me in the offseason, and he noticed I was drifting after the baseball. And he told me, he was telling me about the importance of that first step. When we can explode with that first step and try to get to the ball as quickly as we can. Obviously, we want to stay in control, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but the importance of that first step. Now, listen, the bottom line is we only have so much time to be able to complete the play, right? Because the runner is running down to first base. The longer it takes for us to get to the baseball, the less time we have at the back end of the play, which is the throwing. So if an infielder is rushing the throw, a lot of times you can eliminate that just by being a little bit more aware of how you approach the baseball. And that comes with first step, your intent, your focus, taking straighter angles, taking less steps to get to the baseball, but having more focus and direction and getting to that ball as quickly as you can. You're going to see a lot more time when it comes to the back end of that play, and the result, you're going to see a lot more accurate throws across the infield. Now, nobody talks about this, and no one really taught me when I was in high school. In the games, I was winging the ball all over the place, throwing it off the dugout over the first baseman's head, and my coach, who had a great heart, but he was working on throwing mechanics with me. Now, the problem with that was, in practice, I was able to field the ball just fine, and I was able to throw the ball accurately across the infield just fine. It's just when the speed of the game increased, now all of a sudden my throwing accuracy went down. So I know this is one area that definitely helped me, and it will help you. So understand what we're talking about here. The way I used to field ground balls was one constant tempo. I would see the ball, I would usually drift after the baseball, and then my tempo would gradually start to increase, and I would work through the baseball up until my throw. There's so many problems that stem from that. When I do that, I become a collision fielder. I'm not fielding the ball consistently. Balls are popping out of my glove. And then even when I do that, I'm having to rush my throw because I'm not getting to the ball quick enough. So there's a lot of problems that stem from just having one tempo through the baseball. What really helped me is this: understanding there are three distinct phases of tempo. That first phase is what we talked about, the intentful first step, being aggressive and going after the baseball, cutting down your angles, being sharp with your angles, and cutting down the number of steps you're taking to get to the baseball. Now from here, once the ground ball gets 2 hops away from you, that's when you slow your tempo down. That's when you focus on fielding the baseball. Remember, we talked about this before. We field the baseball before we throw the baseball. So we go quick after the baseball, ball gets 2 hops away, that's when we slow down our tempo, we secure the baseball. Once the ball is secured in our glove, that's when our footwork and everything starts to ramp up, our intensity and our tempo picks up, and then we work to throw the ball to first base. So understanding those 3 distinct phases of tempo are huge. And this is very important because the slower phase, in phase 2, when we're fielding the baseball, is where you can use your footwork and create adjustability. And that's how you take control of the baseball, and you don't let the baseball take control over you. If you don't slow down at that point, you're taking away all adjustability, and you are at the mercy of the ground ball. So those 3 distinct phases, there's so much within each of those phases that's what we put all this stuff in the confident infielder, but there are just so much meat in here, and having that basic understanding though, quick, slow, quick, totally changed the way that I threw the ball over to first base. It increased my accuracy almost overnight. Now, footwork and adjustability is a huge topic, and I actually have a video on that inside the Confident Infielder, but I'll make that available to you for free. And understanding the connection between adjustability and control and how to use your footwork was the #1 thing that changed my game and made me a better infielder. So I'll put that link in the video below as well, and I highly recommend you go back and watch it now while it's free. But if you can go grab onto this one concept of tempo, first step quickness, and incorporate it into your game, you can actually create more time for the fielding, transfer, and throwing phase of the fielding process. If you can combine that with a good internal clock, and that will develop over time, the more you incorporate this quick, slow, quick, that internal clock will start to develop. You'll be able to eliminate the frantic feeling of being rushed. Then, instead of throwing the ball away or in the dirt, you're making a strong, accurate throw to first base, which is what we all want to achieve, right? So there are many other strategies and techniques for increasing the power and accuracy of your throws and for eliminating errors. But if you're interested in having a step-by-step plan for developing elite infield skills, I invite you to check out my Confident Infielder training program. It's an online program that anyone can do from anywhere in the country. I use videos, practice plans, quizzes, and other teaching strategies like learning how to study Major League Video that helps infielders develop both their knowledge and their skill. My goal is for the end of the program that you can go out and execute elite fielding in actual game situations so that you'll become a more confident infielder and that you can enjoy the game more than you ever have before. And so coaches and scouts and recruiters will take notice, and it will open the door, or has the potential to open door for future opportunities like it did for me. So click the link to check out the Confident Infielder, and I will see you soon.